Welcome back to the Brisbane Channel, your go-to for all things Brisbane. Today we're diving into some major changes we can expect to see over the next 12 months across Greater Brisbane. Politicians like to talk about all the great things they're going to do, but that doesn't really mean a lot until they show they mean it by putting down the cash to get it done. Today we'll dig into where the Queensland Government plan to spend their money for Brisbane, Ipswich, Logan, Moreton Bay and Redland. Stick around to find out how your taxpayer dollars are being spent and what changes you'll see in your area over the next year. And of course, make sure you're subscribed and have hit the bell so that you don't miss the weekly updates and the other videos on the Brisbane Channel. The Queensland 2025-26 budget, handed down in June by Treasurer David Janetsky, is being framed as a fresh start for our state. It's got a whopping $8.6 billion deficit, but the government says it's investing now to fix big issues like youth crime, health, housing, and cost of living pressures. Total spending is huge, with a $116.8 billion infrastructure budget for the state, but we're focusing specifically on Greater Brisbane. The budget breaks down into 6 key areas: community safety, health, Olympic and Paralympic Games delivery, housing, infrastructure and education. There's also some initiatives that aim to alleviate cost of living pressures. Let's unpack each area, starting with what the current state government says will keep our streets safe. And let me say at this point that the Brisbane Channel will be keeping its usual neutral, non-partisan eye on how things play out as these plans are delivered over time. First up, community safety. One of the main commitments the LNP party took to the last election was to be tough on crime, particularly youth crime. Their Adult Time, Adult Crime slogan was plastered on billboards and advertising across the state before we went to the polls, and in what could be either reassuring or frightening depending on your stance, there's no denying the large amount being allocated to building the police and justice system. The state's pouring $5.2 billion into its Making Our Communities Safer plan, which aims to tackle youth crime in particular. In Greater Brisbane, here's what's happening. Brisbane Central, $37.7 million for a new police beat at Fortitude Valley and upgrades to the Brisbane City Police Station. This means more visible policing in the heart of the city. And an additional $500,000 will be used to expand the city-safe CCTV network across inner city suburbs. Brisbane North, $28 million for new police stations in Boondall and Ferny Grove, and another $500,000 for CCTV upgrades in Mitchelton, Carpenter and Alderley. Brisbane South and Logan, $26 million for Mount Gravatt and Logan Central police facilities to boost response times in these growing suburbs, and $2 million for a network of anti-hooning cameras for a number of Logan suburbs. In Ipswich, $16.5 million for a new Goodna police station to support the fast-growing area. Moreton Bay, $44 million for Redcliffe Police facility upgrades aimed at ensuring safer communities as the population booms. Redland, $1.2 million for fixed and mobile CCTV cameras in Cleveland and Capalaba. Across the board, $147.9 million is going to new tasers, vests, and body-worn cameras for police. There's also a definite focus on support for victims of crime, with $279 million for victim support, including a new victims advocate service. The government's also investing $12.9 million over 4 years to help victims of crime navigate the justice system. This is all a big push to make our neighbourhoods safer, but it's not without its critics. Some say the focus on tougher laws might overshadow prevention programs. The youth advocates I've spoken with as I prepare a major video on youth crime are critical of taking an overly punitive approach, saying addressing the factors at a community level that contribute to youth entering the justice system in the first place is paramount. Now let's talk about health. No doubt you've seen news that talks about ambulance ramping and shortfalls in the health system. Well, for 2025-26, Queensland's getting a record $33.1 billion for health, up 10.2% from last year. In addition, the Hospital Rescue Plan is a massive $18.5 billion commitment, adding 2,600 new hospital beds statewide, 3 new hospitals and 10 major upgrades. Here's how it all breaks down for Greater Brisbane. Brisbane Central and South, $761 million for the Princess Alexandra Hospital expansion, including 249 new beds and upgraded facilities. Also $621 million for a building with 112 new beds to expand QE2 Hospital. In Brisbane North, expansion and upgrades to the Royal Brisbane and Women's and Prince Charles Hospitals, as well as a new cancer centre in Thorsten. In Ipswich, $925 million for the Ipswich Hospital extension, with 200 new beds, adding capacity for a growing population. Also $129 million to develop a 3-storey subacute modular unit with 90 new beds to expand the Ripley Satellite Health Centre. In Logan, over $1.3 billion for Logan Hospital's expansion, including at least 112 new beds. Moreton Bay, $367.7 million for Caboolture Hospital redevelopment, adding 130 beds, and another 210 new overnight beds as part of Redcliffe Hospital's expansion. In Redland, $150 million for a new 43-bed mental health and allied health building for Redland Hospital. Plus $1.752 billion is set aside for 30,000 extra elective surgeries in 2025-26, partnering with private hospitals to cut wait lists. The Queensland Ambulance Service gets a $1 billion boost, including a new station in Beenleigh Central. Also, medical practices get a payroll tax exemption for GPs to help keep community medical practices more sustainable. On top of that, extra funding has been allocated to growing the health workforce to over 44,000 across Metro North, South and Children's Health Queensland Hospital and Health Services. Of course, the elephant in the room when it comes to Queensland spending is the upcoming 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games, and the state government has allocated $4.7 billion to games delivery projects over the next 4 years. This includes $3.8 billion for venues, including the 63,000-seat stadium at Victoria Park and the Logan and Moreton Bay indoor sports centres. $950 million for athletes' villages, including one in Brisbane, as well as upgrades to the RNA showgrounds. Also $308.5 million for the Geek to progress with a delivery partner. Now housing. With Greater Brisbane's population booming, the state's investing $8.1 billion on initiatives intended to tackle the housing crisis, including $5.6 billion for 53,500 new social and community homes by 2044. Key initiatives include the Boost to Buy program, which is $165 million over 2 years to help first home buyers with up to 30% equity in new homes or 25% in existing ones, capped at $1 million. Next, the Residential Activation Fund with $1 billion initial investment as part of a $2 billion plan to unlock land for housing. As mentioned in previous videos on the Brisbane Channel, this funds infrastructure such as roads, water and sewerage necessary for the development of communities in new areas. For Redland, $49.5 million has been allocated to social housing, with 143 social homes underway or contracted to support low-income families. For Ipswich, $73.2 million for new social and community housing, with 192 social homes currently in construction or under contract. For Logan, $52.1 million for new social and community housing, with 172 social homes in construction or under contract. And in Moreton Bay, $70.4 million to expand and improve social and community housing, with 265 social homes under contract or in construction. The $30,000 first homeowner grant is extended to June 2026, and a new property consultative committee will streamline housing development approvals by year end. But some argue the 1,000 applicant cap on the Boost to Buy program is far too small to even make a dent on the housing crunch. A quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, local business Wise and Silent Travel Insurance. They're the winner of Best International Travel Insurance for Value in Finder's 2024 Travel Insurance Awards. Wise and Silent Travel Insurance won the 2024 award because it costs less on average but covers you for more. They're also the official travel insurance provider for Australian passengers on Scoot Airlines. Backed by a global insurance provider and 24/7 medical assistance team, the rave reviews on Trustpilot confirm that you can travel with total peace of mind if you choose Wise and Silent for your next overseas trip. Click this QR code or the link in the video description to get an exclusive 10% discount on your premium. Onto infrastructure, where the state's committing $116.8 billion. Greater Brisbane projects funded include $5.75 billion for the Logan and Gold Coast Faster Rail, cutting commute times for southern suburbs. In Brisbane North and Moreton Bay, upgrades to the intersection of Gympie and Beams Road, and $500 million for the Bruce Highway upgrades, including safety improvements from Caboolture to the Sunshine Coast. Also the new Bribie Island Bridge, which we've mentioned in an earlier video. For Ipswich, $4 million has been set aside for a detailed business case for a second inner-city bridge across the Bremer River in central Ipswich. For Redland, there will be a 50% subsidy on vehicle barge travel for residents of the southern Moreton Bay Islands. In Logan, $100 million for road upgrades in Beenleigh and Jimboomba to handle population growth. Plus $9 billion is locked in for Bruce Highway upgrades statewide with an 80-20 funding deal with the federal government. These projects are massive, but with a $190.4 billion debt projection by 2027-28, some worry about the long-term cost of all of these projects. Statewide, there'll be 15 new schools established, but this includes a new primary school in Ripley Valley and new special school campuses in Ipswich West and Springfield Redbank, as well as completely new special schools in Moreton Bay South, Beenleigh and Central Logan. There'll also be new TAFE campuses in Redland and Moreton Bay. While there's a commitment to deliver 550 more teacher aides and support teachers across the state, this video comes at a time when the teachers of Queensland are deciding whether or not to strike for better pay. Of course, we'll keep you updated on that here on the Brisbane Channel. As long as you've subscribed and enabled all notifications, you won't fall out of the loop. Finally, cost of living relief. The budget scraps Labor's $1,000 energy rebates for what they say are targeted measures. These include the Back to School Boost, which is $100 that is put towards school-age kids' education costs, costing $180 million over 4 years, helping families in all LGAs. Play On vouchers, $200 for kids' sports, continued on from last year, supporting active kids. Electricity rebates, $386 for vulnerable households, that's seniors and pensioners, which is up $14 across Greater Brisbane. Also solar for renters, $26 million for rebates up to $3,500 for landlords to install solar panels, benefiting 6,500 renters from all parts of Greater Brisbane. These are smaller than last year's rebates, and some families might feel the pinch. QCOS says that with this budget, low-income households will be worse off compared to the last financial year. What's your take on the budget this time round? Have they got their priorities right, or are we putting ourselves too deep into debt without good reason? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who wants to know what's coming for Greater Brisbane in the next year. Of course, there's also money being spent at a local level, which is what this video covers, so make sure you check that out if you haven't already. I'll see you there or in the next video.